Do you know what scares people the most? Not the loudest person in the room, not the one begging for attention. No, they fear the one who stays silent, watches everything, and rises when nobody expects it. Smiling face with horns fire, they act like they don't see you. They ignore your struggle, your pain, your potential. They laugh while you build yourself in silence. But deep inside, they know. They know one day your success will become the noise they can't escape. And that's the funny thing about fear. People pretend you're nothing right before you become everything. Silence scares people more than anger ever could. A loud person is easy to understand. When someone shouts, complains, or demands attention, the world immediately knows what they want. Their emotions are visible. Their intentions are exposed. But the silent person, the one who observes without reacting, becomes a mystery nobody can fully read, and people fear what they cannot predict. Have you ever noticed how society treats quiet people? They are often underestimated, ignored, laughed at. People assume silence means weakness because the world has trained everyone to believe power only belongs to the loudest voice in the room. If you are not constantly showing off, speaking over others, or demanding recognition, people start believing you have nothing inside you worth noticing. But silence is not emptiness. Sometimes silence is calculation. Sometimes silence is patience. Sometimes silence is a storm waiting for the perfect moment to strike. The most dangerous people are rarely the ones making noise. The loud ones usually seek attention because they need validation. They want the world to notice them every second. But the silent person does not chase attention because they are busy building something greater behind the scenes. While others are talking, they are learning. While others are showing off fake confidence, they are mastering their skills. While others are distracted by applause, they are focused on becoming unstoppable. That is what makes silence terrifying. People become uncomfortable when they cannot figure you out. They start asking questions in their minds. Why is this person so calm? Why don't they react? Why do they stay focused while everyone else loses control? Silence creates pressure because it forces others to face uncertainty. Human beings are addicted to reactions. They want a K. Now they can affect your emotions. They want to see anger, fear, sadness, or insecurity on your face because it gives them power. But when you remain silent, when you stay calm even in difficult situations, you take that power away from them. A silent person can walk into a room and make insecure people nervous without saying a single word. Because silence carries confidence when it comes from self-control. Anyone can scream. Anyone can argue. Anyone can lose control emotionally. But staying composed while the world tests you requires strength most people do not have. And deep inside, people recognize that strength immediately. Think about the moments that truly intimidate others. It is not always aggression. Sometimes it is the person who simply watches quietly while everyone else talks too much. The one who smiles slightly but reveals nothing. The one who listens carefully instead of wasting energy proving themselves. Silence creates mystery, and mystery creates fear. The Joker mentality is not about chaos alone. It is about understanding human psychology. The Joker knows people reveal themselves when they are uncomfortable. Silence becomes a weapon because it allows you to OB. Serve everyone clearly while they expose their weaknesses trying to fill the empty space. Most people cannot handle silence. They rush to speak because silence forces them to confront their own thoughts, insecurities, and fears. But the person who is comfortable in silence already has control over themselves. And once you control yourself, you become difficult to control by others. That is why many successful people move in silence. They do not announce every plan. They do not seek approval before taking action. They understand that talking too much weakens energy. Real power does not need constant advertisement. A lion does not waste time convincing the jungle it is dangerous. Its presence alone is enough. People often mistake silence for submission until results appear. That is the biggest mistake they make. They laugh at the quiet student until he becomes the smartest in the class. They ignore the silent worker until he becomes more successful than everyone who mocked him. They overlook the calm dreamer until his achievements become impossible to ignore. Society respects noise at first, but eventually it bows to results. Silence also protects your vision. The moment you uncle every dream to the world, negativity begins attacking it. Doubt enters your mind. Opinions start controlling your focus. But when you build quietly, your energy stays protected. Your goals stay pure. Nobody sees the moves you are making until it is too late to stop you. There is also something psychologically powerful about emotional silence. When people insult you expecting a reaction and you give them nothing, they become frustrated. When they try to provoke you but fail, they lose confidence. Your silence becomes a mirror reflecting their own weakness back at them. Suddenly they realize they are fighting someone who cannot easily be shaken. In a world addicted to noise, silence becomes rare, and rare things automatically carry value. Everyone wants attention today. Everyone wants to be seen every second. Social media has turned people into performers desperate for approval. But the person who can remain silent, focused, patient, and disciplined gains an advantage most people never understand. Because while the world is busy talking, the silent person is evolving. People ignore what they cannot control. That is one of the darkest truths about human nature. The moment someone realizes they cannot manipulate your thoughts, your emotions, or your direction in life, they start feeling uncomfortable around you. And instead of admitting that discomfort, they pretend you do not matter. They act like they cannot see your value. They laugh at your ambition. They dismiss your confidence. But deep inside, the real reason is fear. Most people feel safe around weakness because weakness is predictable. A person who constantly seeks approval can easily be controlled. A person who changes themselves to please others becomes easy to manipulate. Society rewards obedience because obedient people never threaten the comfort of the crowd. But the moment someone starts thinking independently, standing alone, and refusing to follow the expectations of others, people begin reacting differently. Not because you are wrong, because you are free. Freedom scares people who live inside mental cages. When they see someone walking their own path without fear of judgment, it reminds them of everything they were too afraid to become. And that reminder creates insecurity. They start questioning themselves. Why can't I do that? Why am I so afraid? What if this person actually succeeds? Instead of facing those uncomfortable questions honestly, many people choose the easier option. Pretending your potential is meaningless. That is why strong individuals are often ignored before they are respected. History repeats this pattern again and again. Every person who became powerful, influential, or unforgettable was underestimated at first. Society mocked them because people could not control them. A mind that refuses to obey becomes dangerous to anyone who depends on control. The crowd always attacks what it does not understand because understanding requires intelligence, while attacking only requires insecurity. The Joker mentality understands this perfectly. People only love versions of you they can predict. The moment you become unpredictable, independent, and emotionally untouchable, they start treating you differently. Suddenly your silence becomes attitude, your confidence becomes arrogance, your ambition becomes delusion. Not because those things are wrong, but because people lose their ability to define you, and humans hate losing control. Control exists everywhere. Friends try to control your choices through opinions. Society tries to control your behavior through judgment. Fear tries to control your actions through doubt. Even failure tries to control your future by convincing you to stop trying. Most people surrender without realizing it. They live according to expectations designed by others. They speak carefully to avoid criticism. They hide their dreams because they fear rejection. They slowly become prisoners of public opinion. But the moment you stop seeking permission to become yourself, everything changes. People notice it immediately. They see it in your attitude, in your energy, in the way you no longer chase validation. And that confidence unsettles them because confidence without approval is rare. Most people build fake confidence using compliments, popularity, or attention. Remove those things, and they collapse internally. But real confidence comes from self-belief. It exists even when nobody claps for you. That kind of confidence cannot be controlled. And because it cannot be controlled, people often try to destroy it, sometimes through criticism, sometimes through silence, sometimes through pretending your efforts do not exist. They hope ignoring your progress will weaken your motivation. They hop. Eating making you feel invisible will force you back into insecurity. But what they fail to understand is that truly dangerous people grow stronger in isolation. A lion does not need the approval of sheep to know its strength. The most powerful transformations happen quietly. While people are busy doubting you, you are building discipline. While they are gossiping about your failures, you are learning from them. While they are trying to control your emotions, you are mastering them. And slowly, without warning, the ignored person becomes unstoppable. People also fear what they cannot emotionally influence. If someone insults you and you react emotionally, they feel powerful. If someone criticizes you and you break down, they feel control. But when you stay calm, focused, and unaffected, they lose that power. Suddenly they realize they cannot reach your mind. They cannot shake your direction. That realization frustrates insecure people more than anything else. Because emotional control is real power. The world teaches people to react instantly, to become angry immediately, to seek revenge emotionally, to lose control whenever challenged. But discipline terrifies people because blind individuals become difficult to manipulate. When your emotions belong to you instead of the world around you, you become dangerous in a way most people never understand. Ignoring someone is often a psychological defense mechanism. People ignore greatness when they fear it may eventually surpass them. They ignore intelligence because it exposes their ignorance. They ignore ambition because it reminds them of their own laziness. They ignore confidence because it reveals their insecurity. And they ignore independent thinkers because they cannot predict them. But pretending not to notice someone does not erase their potential. Fire remains fire even when nobody looks at it. Some of the strongest people in the world were once treated like they were invisible. Nobody respected their dreams in the beginning. Nobody believed in their future. Nobody imagined they would rise beyond expectations. But invisibility became their advantage. Because while the world ignored them, they had time to sharpen themselves without distraction. And one day, the same people who refused to notice them suddenly became forced to watch their success. Hidden potential is one of the most dangerous forces in the world because people fear what they cannot measure. When someone shows all their abilities openly, society becomes comfortable around them. Everyone knows what to expect. Everyone understands their limits. But the person whose true strength remains unseen creates uncertainty, and uncertainty makes people nervous. Deep inside, humans always fear the possibility of being surprised by someone they underestimated. That is why hidden potential carries power. Most people judge others based on appearances, current circumstances, or temporary weakness. They look at someone struggling today and assume they will struggle forever. They see silence and mistake it for emptiness. They see patience and mistake it for fear. They see calmness and mistake it for weakness. But reality is far more dangerous than first impressions. Sometimes the quietest person in the room is fighting battles nobody knows about while secretly building the mindset of a warrior. Potential does not always announce itself loudly. In fact, true potential often grows in darkness. Just like diamonds form under pressure, greatness develops through struggle, pain, and isolation. The world usually notices success little after it becomes impossible to ignore. But nobody sees the lonely nights, the failures, the sacrifices, or the mental battles happening behind the scenes. Hidden potential survives in those unseen moments, and that hidden growth terrifies people once it finally appears. There is something psychologically unsettling about realizing you completely misjudged someone. It forces people to confront their own ignorance. That is why society often resists rising individuals at first. When someone begins transforming into something greater than expected, insecure people feel threatened because the transformation destroys the image they created in their minds. They become uncomfortable seeing a person they once ignored suddenly gaining confidence, discipline, intelligence, or success. The Joker mentality understands this perfectly. People create labels because labels make others easier to control. Weak, average, quiet, weird, failure. Society loves putting people into categories because it simplifies reality. But hidden potential destroys labels. It breaks expectations. It turns underestimated people into unpredictable forces. And unpredictability creates fear. Think about the people who shocked the world throughout history. Many of them were doubted in the beginning, mocked, rejected, ignored. Nobody saw the greatness hidden beneath their struggles. Nobody recognized the fire inside them because true power rarely looks impressive during its early stages. A seed underground does not look powerful, yet inside that small seed exists the potential to become an entire forest. Most people are too impatient to understand that. The world is obsessed with immediate results. If success is not visible instantly, society assumes failure. But hidden potential operates differently. It grows slowly, silently, and privately. It develops through discipline when nobody is watching, through pain when nobody is helping, through persistence when everybody else quits. That is why hidden potential becomes terrifying once it awakens, because by the time people notice it, it is often too late to stop. There is also fear in realizing someone endured suffering without breaking. Pain changes people. Struggle sharpens people. A person who survives darkness while continuing to move forward develops a level of mental strength that cannot easily be destroyed. And deep down, others recognize that strength even if they refuse to admit it openly. People often laugh at individuals during their lowest moments because they assume weakness is permanent. They cannot imagine the possibility that pain might actually be creating strength instead of destroying it. But some people transform suffering into fuel. Every betrayal teaches them awareness. Every failure teaches them discipline. Every rejection teaches them independence. Slowly they evolve into someone far stronger than the world expected. And when hidden strength finally reveals itself, people panic. Because now the person they ignored no longer needs validation. The person they mocked no longer fears judgment. The person they underestimated no longer depends on anyone's approval. That transformation shifts the balance of power completely. Hidden potential is also dangerous because it carries hunger. People who have struggled quietly often develop an unstoppable drive. They know what it feels like to be overlooked. They know what it feels like to be doubted. That pain creates ambition stronger than comfort ever could. Someone who has experienced rejection learns to survive without applause. Someone who has suffered learns endurance. Someone who has been underestimated learns patience. And patience combined with ambition becomes lethal. The world fears hidden potential because it cannot predict when the explosion will happen. Nobody notices the silent individual improving every day. Nobody pays attention to the lonely dreamer studying late at night. Nobody respects the quiet fighter training in isolation. But eventually there comes a moment where preparation meets opportunity, and suddenly the invisible person becomes impossible to ignore. That sudden rise shocks people because they only saw the surface. They never saw the years of preparation underneath. They never saw the mindset forming in darkness. They never saw the discipline being built silently while everyone else chased distractions. The scariest individuals are often not the naturally gifted ones. They are the ones who built themselves through struggle. Because naturally gifted people sometimes depend on talent alone, but people forged through hardship develop resilience. They know how to survive pressure. They know how to continue moving even when life becomes painful. And resilience creates a level of strength that frightens ordinary minds. Fear grows strongest when people realize hidden potential was standing beside them the entire time. They replay memories in their minds. They remember laughing at someone who later became successful. They remember ignoring someone who later became powerful. They remember dismissing someone who eventually proved everyone wrong. And nothing damages human pride more than realizing they underestimated a future force while it was still growing in silence. Being underestimated is one of the greatest advantages a person can have, even though most people see it as disrespect. The world trains everyone to crave recognition immediately. People want attention for every small achievement. They want praise before results. They want validation before victory. But there is hidden power in moving through life unnoticed, while others fail to understand what you are truly capable of. When people underestimate you, they lower their guard. They stop paying attention. They assume you are harmless, weak, average, or incapable of becoming something greater. And that assumption becomes your advantage because expectations shape behavior. The moment someone believes you are not a threat, hey, stop preparing for your rise. That is where real power begins. Most people fear being doubted because their confidence depends on outside approval. If nobody believes in them, they begin doubting themselves too. But strong individuals understand something different. They realize that belief from others is temporary, unreliable, and often meaningless. The crowd changes opinions constantly. One day people mock you, the next day they admire you. Building your identity around public opinion is dangerous, because public opinion has no loyalty. The Joker mentality understands this perfectly. Society only respects visible power, expensive clothes, loud confidence, popularity, attention. But true strength often hides beneath simplicity. The quiet person sitting unnoticed in the corner may possess more intelligence, discipline, and mental toughness than everyone seeking attention in the center of the room. And because nobody notices them, they gain freedom. Freedom to observe. Freedom to improve. Freedom to move without pressure. When people underestimate you, they reveal themselves completely. They speak carelessly around you because they assume you are beneath them. They expose the ire, arrogance, insecurities, and weaknesses because they do not consider you important enough to fear. Meanwhile, you are learning everything about them while they know almost nothing about you. That imbalance creates silent power. There is also psychological strength in being overlooked. Expectations create pressure. The person constantly praised by society becomes terrified of failure because everyone is watching them. They feel forced to protect an image. But underestimated people move differently. Nobody expects greatness from them, which allows them to fail, learn, and improve privately. They can sharpen themselves without constant judgment. That hidden development becomes dangerous over time. A sword is not forged instantly. It survives fire, pressure, and repeated strikes before becoming powerful. In the same way, underestimated individuals often become mentally stronger because they are forced to grow without support. They learn discipline because nobody motivates them. They learn resilience because nobody rescues them. They learn independence because nobody believes in them enough to carry them forward. Pain creates depth. Rejection creates hunger. Doubt creates endure. Ants. The world usually celebrates people after success becomes visible. But before success appears, society often treats ambitious individuals like jokes. That is because humans struggle to recognize future greatness during its early stages. They only believe in results they can already see. Vision means nothing to small minds until it becomes reality. That is why many powerful people were underestimated first. People laughed at them before admiring them, ignored them before respecting them, doubted them before fearing them. And those moments of rejection became fuel instead of weakness. Every insult sharpened their focus. Every dismissal strengthened their patience. Every moment of invisibility allowed them to evolve quietly. Being underestimated also protects you from unnecessary enemies. The moment people see you as powerful too early, they start competing against you immediately. Jealousy grows. Negativity increases. People begin watching every move you make. But when nobody expects anything from you, you can build in silence. You can make mistakes privately. You can improve without attracting attention from insecure individuals who want to stop your progress. That's silence. E becomes strategic. There is something deeply satisfying about proving people wrong without arguing with them. Weak people waste energy defending themselves verbally. They constantly explain their value because they need recognition immediately. But disciplined individuals stay patient. They let actions speak over time. They understand that success destroys doubt more effectively than words ever can. The Joker mindset embraces this darkness. Imagine the psychological shock people feel when someone they ignored suddenly rises beyond expectations. The quiet classmate becomes the smartest person in the room. The rejected dreamer becomes successful. The invisible worker becomes powerful. Suddenly, people are forced to confront the fact that they completely misjudged someone, and that realization damages pride. Humans hate admitting they were wrong about people, especially when they once looked down on them. That is why success from underestimated individuals often creates stronger reactions than success from naturally admired people. It exposes the blindness of the crowd. It proves society does not truly understand potential. Underestimation also builds emotional toughness. When nobody expects greatness from you, you stop depending on applause. You learn to survive without compliments. You learn to trust your own vision even when nobody understands it. That internal confidence becomes stronger than external validation because it cannot easily be destroyed. People who always receive praise often collapse under criticism because they never developed emotional endurance. But underestimated individuals become familiar with rejection early. They understand disappointment. They understand loneliness. And because they survive those experiences repeatedly, they become difficult to break mentally. The strongest people are often the ones who learned how to rise alone. There is also power in surprise. Predictable people rarely dominate because everyone already knows their limits. But underestimated individuals carry hidden force. Nobody knows when they will rise. Nobody sees the transformation happening in silence. And by the time society notices their growth, the gap has already become too large to ignore. A storm is most dangerous before people realize it is coming. That is why being underestimated should never be feared. It should be embraced. Because invisibility gives you time. Silence gives you focus. Doubt gives you motivation. And while the world wastes energy judging appearances, the underestimated person continues building a version of themselves powerful enough to shock everyone who once overlooked them. Success is the ultimate revenge because it speaks louder than anger, arguments, or hatred ever could. People often think revenge means hurting those who hurt you, humiliating those who doubted you, or making others suffer the same pain they caused. But real revenge is far more powerful than temporary emotions. Real revenge is reaching a level where the people who ignored you, mocked you, or betrayed you are forced to witness your growth, while realizing they can no longer affect your future. Nothing destroys doubt more brutally than success. The world is full of people who secretly enjoy seeing others fail. Some people smile in front of you while hoping your dreams collapse behind your back. Some people support you only when you stay beneath them. The moment you begin improving yourself, their energy changes. Suddenly, the encouragement disappears. The jokes begin. The criticism grows louder, not because you are doing something wrong, but because your progress threatens insecure minds. People become uncomfortable when someone they underestimated starts rising. The Joker mentality understands human hypocrisy perfectly. Society often pretends to support ambition, but in reality, many people only support ambition when it does not outshine them. They clap for dreams that seem impossible because impossible dreams feel harmless. But the moment your dreams start becoming real, fear enters the room. Your discipline becomes intimidating. Your confidence becomes threatening. Your success becomes a reminder of their own excuses. And that reminder creates resentment. That is why arguing with doubters is pointless. Explaining yourself wastes energy. Trying to convince people of your value usually changes nothing, because insecure individuals are emotionally attached to underestimating you. They need to believe you will fail because your success would force them to question themselves. Success solves that problem without words. A person can ignore your vision. They can laugh at your plans. They can call you unrealistic, weak, or delusional. But once results appear, reality becomes impossible to deny. Success silent. Everyone's people in a way arguments never can. It changes the atmosphere completely. The same people who once ignored you suddenly start paying attention. The same people who doubted you suddenly act supportive. The same people who laugh suddenly pretend they believed in you all along. Because humans respect outcomes more than effort. That is one of the coldest truths about the world. Most people do not care about your struggles while you are fighting them. They only notice after victory becomes visible. Nobody sees the sleepless nights, the loneliness, the sacrifices, or the mental battles hidden behind success. They only see the final result. That is why successful people often become emotionally detached from public opinion. They understand how quickly society changes once power, money, confidence, or achievement enters the picture. Success is revenge because it shifts power silently. The person who once rejected you loses influence over your emotions. The people who mocked your dreams no longer control your confidence. The crowd that ignored your existence suddenly becomes forced to acknowledge your presence. And the most painful part for them is realizing they cannot rewrite high story. Deep inside, they remember every moment they doubted you. There is also a deeper psychological reason success hurts insecure people. Your growth exposes their stagnation. When someone from the same environment rises above limitations, it destroys excuses. People can no longer blame circumstances completely because your existence proves change was possible. And instead of using that realization as inspiration, many insecure individuals react with jealousy because your success becomes evidence of their inaction. The Joker mindset does not waste time seeking petty revenge. Petty revenge keeps you emotionally connected to the people who hurt you. It traps your energy in the past. But success transforms pain into fuel instead of destruction. Every insult becomes motivation. Every betrayal becomes discipline. Every rejection becomes hunger. Instead of collapsing emotionally, you build yourself into something stronger. That transformation becomes terrifying. Imagine the psychological impact of seeing someone you once looked down on become unstoppable. Someone you ignored now walks with confidence. Someone you mocked now achieves things you never expected. Someone you underestimate. No longer needs your validation, approval, or attention. Suddenly, the balance of power changes completely, and nothing burns pride more painfully than regret. People often regret how they treated others once success arrives, not because they suddenly became good-hearted, but because success changes social value in society's eyes. Humans are attracted to power, confidence, and achievement. That is why many people only recognize worth after it becomes publicly visible. But the strongest individuals never forget who ignored them during the process. Success also creates emotional freedom. When you achieve your goals, the opinions that once hurt you begin losing importance. Criticism feels smaller. Rejection feels weaker. The people who once occupied space in your mind slowly become irrelevant. That emotional distance is powerful because it means your peace no longer depends on external validation. The best revenge is becoming impossible to control emotionally. Many people stay trapped in bitterness because they focus too much on proving others wrong instead of improving themselves. But true success comes from evolution, not obsession. You rise because you refuse to stay broken. You grow because pain forced you to become stronger. You succeed because you stopped waiting for fairness and started building power. That process changes your entire mindset. You stop seeking approval from people who never understood your vision. You stop chasing acceptance from those who doubted your potential. You stop explaining your worth to those determined to misunderstand you. Instead, you focus on results, discipline, growth, silence, patience, and slowly your life becomes the answer they never expected. Success is terrifying because it cannot be erased. Words disappear. Arguments fade. Emotions change. But visible achievement forces reality into people's faces permanently. Once someone rises beyond expectations, society can no longer pretend they are weak, ordinary, or incapable. That is why success remains the coldest form of revenge. It wins without screaming. It destroys doubt without fighting. It humiliates arrogance without needing insults. And while others waste energy hating, the successful person continues rising higher beyond the reach of everyone who once tried to keep them small. The quiet ones shock the world because nobody expects silence to carry power. Society is addicted to noise. The loudest people get attention first. The most dramatic voices dominate conversations. The people constantly showing off on social media appear important because they make sure everyone notices them every second. But real transformation often happens far away from attention, hidden inside silence where nobody is watching. And that is exactly why quiet people become dangerous. Most people misunderstand silence completely. They think quiet individuals are weak, insecure, or afraid to speak. They assume silence means lack of confidence because they cannot imagine strength existing without constant self-promotion. But silence is not always fear. Sometimes silence is focus. Sometimes silence is intelligence. Sometimes silence is self-control so powerful that it no longer needs validation from the outside world. The Joker mentality understands this deeply. Noise attracts attention, but silence gathers information. Loud people reveal themselves constantly. Their emotions, insecurities, and intentions become visible because they talk too much. But quiet individuals become difficult to read. They observe more than they speak. They listen carefully while others expose their weaknesses trying to impress the room. That mystery creates psychological pressure. People feel uncomfortable around someone they cannot fully understand. Humans naturally seek patterns because patterns create safety, but quiet people break those patterns. You never fully know what they are thinking. You never know how much they notice. You never know what they are planning. And uncertainty always creates fear. The world often overlooks quiet people in the beginning because silence does not entertain crowds. Society rewards performance more than depth. A person screaming about success receives more attention than a person silently building success. But attention and power are not the same thing. Attention fades quickly. Power grows quietly over time. That is why the quiet ones shock everyone eventually. While loud people waste energy trying to appear important, silent individuals are usually sharpening themselves in private. They are learning skills, controlling emotions, studying people, and building discipline. Nobody notices because growth happening in silence rarely looks exciting from the outside. But hidden progress becomes unstoppable once it aches a certain level. A volcano remains silent before eruption. There is also strength in emotional silence. Most people react instantly to everything. They become angry immediately, defensive immediately, emotional immediately. But quiet individuals often develop patience because silence teaches observation before reaction. And patience creates clarity. Instead of losing control emotionally, they study situations calmly while everyone else acts impulsively. That calmness intimidates insecure people. Imagine insulting someone expecting a reaction, but they simply stare at you silently without losing control. Suddenly the power shifts. The person trying to provoke feels uncomfortable because emotional manipulation failed. Silence becomes a weapon stronger than shouting because it exposes who truly controls themselves. The quiet ones also experience life differently. Since they spend more time observing, they often understand human behavior deeply. They notice fake loyalty, fake confidence, fake kindness. They see patterns others ignore because silence sharpens awareness. Loud environments distract most people, but quiet minds absorb details hidden beneath appearances. That awe, Airness makes them unpredictable. And unpredictable people frighten society because they cannot easily be controlled. The crowd feels comfortable around individuals who constantly seek approval because approval seekers depend on external acceptance. But quiet individuals often build confidence internally. They do not need constant applause to continue moving forward. They trust themselves privately. That independence creates fear. Many of the world's most shocking success stories came from people nobody noticed at first. Quiet students became geniuses. Silent dreamers became leaders. Introverted individuals built empires while the world ignored them. The crowd laughed because they confused silence with weakness, never realizing hidden ambition was growing underneath. That is the danger of underestimating quiet people. Silence allows growth without distraction. Nobody interferes with what they cannot see. While loud people attract jealousy early, quiet individuals move unnoticed. They fail privately, learn privately, and by the time society finally notices them, they have already become far stronger than expected. The Joker mindset thrives in this darkness. Sections. Quiet individuals understand that announcing every plan weakens power. Talking too much releases energy before results appear. Real strength does not need constant advertisement. A predator hunting in the wild does not scream before attacking. Silence preserves focus, and focus creates dominance. Quiet people also develop resilience differently. Since they are often ignored socially, they learn how to survive emotionally without depending on attention. They become comfortable alone, comfortable thinking deeply, comfortable building themselves without applause. That emotional independence becomes terrifying because emotionally independent people are difficult to manipulate. Most humans fear loneliness, so they constantly seek distractions and validation. But quiet individuals often transform solitude into strength. They use isolation to sharpen their minds instead of escaping from themselves. And anyone capable of standing alone peacefully becomes mentally stronger than people addicted to approval. The world always reacts with shock when quiet people rise because society only pays attention to visible confidence. But hidden confidence is often stronger. A silent individual he spent years improving themselves quietly can suddenly outperform everyone who once overlooked them. And the crowd never understands how it happened because they only notice the final result, not the years of silent preparation behind it. That is why quiet people often become unforgettable once they reveal their true potential. People remember those moments forever. The silent classmate suddenly becomes extraordinary, the overlooked individual becoming successful, the calm observer turning into a leader nobody expected. Those transformations shock the world because humans naturally underestimate what they cannot immediately see. And silence hides power better than anything else ever could.